Thank you all for tuning in today to hear a firsthand account from the Palisades fire that has just completely rocked and I would say forever changed Los Angeles. Joining me today is one of my dear friends, Ashley Drysdale, who was there when it all started and just has a pretty harrowing firsthand account of the events of that day. So, Ashley, first of all, thank you so much for being here. We've been praying for you. And I just want to ask you to start by describing what happened to you on January 7th.
Yeah, so I guess describing that would start with dropping my kids off to school the first day back from Christmas break, and call it New Year's resolutions or just the peace that comes off of sometimes the peace that comes off of Christmas break. When I was dropping the girls off, I usually say a very rote prayer as they get out of the car. But they wanted to go the long way around. It's a long story, but so we kind of got to see the full campus, interestingly enough. And I just started to pray. I started to pray that the angels would protect them. I started to pray things that I wish I could say. I pray all the time, but I don't. And as they got out of the car, I felt this sense that there were many, many, many angels. And I said out loud, to no one in the van, why is there any need for all of these angels? And I remembered that my husband had been speaking to this little boy that we were with over Christmas who was having a hard time at his school. And he said, your angels, the angels of children, always see the face of God, And so I thought of that verse. I thought, wow, no wonder there are so many angels. There are so many children. But there were in my mind's eye, whatever I saw when I prayed there were many angels. I've never seen that many angels. So as I was leaving, I just kept praying for the school. The hope of a new year and all of these things in the community and didn't think anything of it. I had no sense of foreboding or anything like that. And went down to Air One, got some meat to make a roast and had a chai in the sunshine, went back home. And I noticed as I was chopping vegetables that all four of these very heavy heaters fell over and broke. So heavy outdoor heaters toppled over. And I thought, wow, it's really a windy day. And I decided to sit down and read. I had been studying Dante and I was going to read verses on hell to see what was the comparison. It sounds really crazy. So I sat down at the couch, and I lit a fire and I started reading. I was sending my husband these verses. I was like, this is wild. And I remember writing down, what is brimstone? I didn't know what it was. And then I get the first ding from our kids' school and it says, there's been a brush fire. We know there's a brush fire. Parents do not come to school. Don't come to school. The school is in a one-way canyon street. And my thought was, well, if we're going to be evacuated, they don't want pandemonium. So fine. So I kept reading and I said to my husband, hey, well, if they're evacuated, do you want to come with me or not? And he was like, oh, sure. And 7 or 8 minutes later, we got a bunch of phone calls and a bunch of urgent dings and went on our way. And even then I wasn't nervous. We've been evacuated many times. Yeah, from the school. We've been evacuated lots of times, or we've had the threat of evacuation over the years, right? So I wasn't that concerned, but I said, do you want to come? He came. I looked at my tennis shoes. I was like, should I wear those? I was wearing furry flip-flops. And I was like, nah, I don't need to do that. So I walked out. We got in the car. I checked the traffic, which is sometimes not like me, I guess, because my husband was driving and it was jammed on Sunset. And so I said, well, let's go PCH. So we went PCH and I took a few pictures of the smoke over PCH. Again, we just had a wildfire before Christmas break. So yeah, we've had a lot of smoke off and on. So I just was taking a picture thinking, wow, smoke is beautiful. This is a terrible thing. But I was like, that's incredible. Look at smoke, And we drive up this road called Temescal and the smoke is a lot. And it's over the high school, which is incredibly close to my kids' school. But where my kids' school is located, there was black smoke coming out, and that was fresh fire. And my husband, we ran a red light. My husband jumped out at an intersection and started running. I saw other moms running. One of them I tried to pick up. She was looking at me and she looked like already grief stricken or something, like imagined grief. And she was her little legs were trying to go faster than she could. No one could tell if the cars or the people were going to get there faster. Yeah, there was gridlock. I left my car. I threw off my furry flip-flops and I ran in socks. And 3/4 down the way to the kids' school, my foot wasn't working anymore. So I sat down and asked another mom if she could get my kids. And then my husband lapped me and he got them and they came out and everyone was safe. Thank God. And I was, my foot wasn't working. So my husband had to carry me, put me in someone's car. He and my girls went down and my husband and another man helped to direct traffic to get everybody out of that canyon. So a lot of people left their cars. People were getting in any car. We were all just sort of trying to head down in various ways to the beach. My car in particular picked up a dad and a little girl on a street. And then we picked up an elderly mom down the way and we all went down to a beach club that's closer to Santa Monica. And I sat there for about 4 hours. My husband offloaded my kids and dogs to someone, grabbed our passports and wedding rings, and we all kind of later met up in Santa Monica. So that's a very long detailing of the situation. But I don't think anyone thought, I think when I was getting my children, there were planes overhead coming right through that canyon and, dropping fire retardant water or whatever. But just after that, I guess the winds picked up even more. And so they couldn't fly anymore. And so I think this also caused a lot of quick evacuations and uncertainty. And some people grabbed things, some people didn't. Some people had more time. Some people were stuck up in this other part of the highlands that they had to kind of get through, fire and smoke to get down. So, miracle of miracles, all the children were safe. This campus is very large and high up on a hill, and all the structures are really up high. So you had to get those kids down. So, kudos to the way that school performed and to God and to, really, truly, thank God for the way that everyone managed to stay calm and to get these children to safety. So
tell us a little bit about what your experience has been like in the days that followed. For you told me for a few days your home survived, but you couldn't get to it. And so all you really had were the clothes that you fled with. What has it been like trying to get back into your house to get necessities as, you have a home, but you've still had to relocate. So what's going on now in this process?
So that to me is a very interesting, underreported situation going on, I think. To get back up into Palisades, in the first 2 days, it was a little fuzzier. If you could walk by foot down PCH and work your way up some of the things that we call the secret stairs, people know how to get up to Palisades through these various stairwells and things, then you could probably make it up without too much resistance. Although there was you really shouldn't be up there, but you could kind of make it happen. I unfortunately had an Achilles tendon snap, so I wasn't mobile. My husband,
and that was from running.
Was from running.
From the fire?
Yeah. And then my husband had to travel the day after. So my mom flew in and my children, and there was just a lot of working from behind. We didn't know. First of all, the fires were still going. So it was about a 3-day event, right? And then by the time you could sort of quote safely, by the time they were organized enough to try to vet people coming in and out, the lines were 12 hours long. So they had a curfew that was 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And you would get, we got in the line at 6:45 in the morning, my cousin and I, my mom, my children, and it was like the road trip to nowhere. We sat in the line, and if we moved 2 feet, we would just, we would rejoice. We played all kinds of games. We did, the community was amazing. People brought provisions. We had so much hope. My kids they'd get out of the car and do the math on how many cars they were letting in per hour and whether or not we were going to make the cut. And at the end of the day, we didn't make the cut. And so but my mother was able to talk to another National Guard person, and we got instructed to go by foot down some steps to PCH and walk. Even then, they were saying, you're never going to make the curfew, but they did. They were able to get up, and they had this saintly LAPD guy who helped them up to the house. They grabbed a few things in 10 or 15 minutes and then came back, came back to the car. And It was amazing. So they walked a mile and they got a victory. They got to get a few of their things. And
You're saying that there could have been a scenario where you spent your entire day in the car, having already been through all this trauma.
Yeah.
And
many
you
people
were
did.
looking at not getting in.
Yeah. And many people did. And I think they had, I know there have been reports that people have major medicines that are in there that can't be easily acquired and things like that. So and my cousin who works for one of the studios and I were riffing on this and we were saying like, in the day of like fast passes and digital queues and Chick-fil-A lines, like it would be great if like FEMA could sort of I've never seen FEMA, just so you know, like being in and around here, I've never seen anyone with any kind of shirt that says FEMA. I've seen websites that talk about where you can go get food, but I haven't seen one person. I've seen National Guard. I've talked to them. I've talked to LAPD, but I've never seen a FEMA person. God bless them. I'm sure they're around. But the point is maybe there should be some private public partnerships where we use some of the better minds, especially like we're in California. We're in a place that's super high tech and innovative. And I'm thinking this should be better organized. Basically they couldn't get people up to Palisades because they had one police officer taking like 3 or 4 cars willy-nilly in the geography. So like if I'm Lower Canyon and somebody else is way up, we would still maybe be part of the same carpool. So you'd have to do like a 45-minute round or an hour round with 3 different cars, but you've got hundreds of cars in line, right? So anyway, wow. That's one of the perspectives, and then after like 2 days ago, they shut it entirely because the winds were supposed to kick up and they had some smoldering fires, so they didn't feel it was safe. So now the winds really didn't kick up, but they were supposed to. And yeah, we've gotten through some of that now. So hopefully they'll reopen. There's a big town hall meeting tonight. So I think everybody's going to get a little bit more information on how to access their properties. Oh, I will say this, kudos to the press, because a few people were able to go up and see their homes, standing or not, because some of these amazing press people, there was like a German film crew who was taking some people up. There were a number of press people who would just use their press pass to help people get up. This was incredible, I would say. I don't know, I don't know all the ins and outs, but I'm just saying that was a huge blessing to people to be able to get up and see things.
So given your experience, will you try and go back to your house anytime soon until things have changed?
I mean, I think anybody who has a house standing wants to access it for one reason or another, for to either grab materials or see what the smoke damage is or any of those things. So we've heard rumors that it can be as much as 3 months before you can access houses. I don't really know. I heard that they're going to do inspections and then issue permits for rehabilitation, and it might be like based on, I don't know where they will start first, but probably in areas that are less damaged potentially. But I'm sure people will learn tonight more of the ins and outs. So yeah, that'll be helpful.
Given what you went through, do you want to go back?
I love Los Angeles and I love Pacific Palisades and its people, and there's so many families that have been there for generations and so many people that we have done life with for so many years. I would say for sure I'd go back. Definitely. And I think my husband and I are kind of just like in that crossroads of like, one of our kids is in school, our other kids are not in school. How do we get them back on track? And how do we work through all these details? And what will life be like? And how can we stay around? And does that mean moving to Santa Monica? Does it mean, how can we help support this community? And is that what we're being called to do? If that makes sense. So,
yeah. And I was going to ask you this because I know that you are just so spiritually sensitive and always seeking the Holy Spirit. And I'm just so curious, your family is such a light that shines for Christ wherever you are. What kind of conversations are you having, and have there been any that have surprised you, and maybe with people who you've maybe never even talked about faith before, but seeing this event that is just around the world being described as apocalyptic, I've been hearing stories from almost everyone who lives in California, just about people who are reaching out, or I should say all the Christians in California that people are interested in coming to church. Just what is it like for you just as a believer? Or I'm sure there's also people asking, where was God? Where was that divine protection? What is happening?
Yeah, those are a lot of really good questions. I think the amount of text messages I've received from people that I've known from that I haven't talked to in many years, or people that I know well, or people in between, like hundreds and hundreds a day, and some of them have been like very comforting and interesting, and I can't get to all of them half the time, but some of them have been like, God is mad at Los Angeles, or the wrath of God is coming down on LA, and all of these things. And I don't have time to respond to those usually, and I can understand that people have lots of perspectives, but I would say that my perspective is that the wrath of God was satisfied in Jesus, and that mostly people survived this fire, which to me is one of the biggest miracles, that the death toll isn't what it really, in a weird way, could have been. And everything comes and goes. I mean, you don't have to be a Christian to know that like material things fade, So I think I'm pretty sure it's a wake-up call for every human, whether they're whatever their religious belief is, and whatever their however they get through life. But I definitely think that there's another school that we were associated, my kids went to for many years, that is completely lost, and also the church is completely lost. And we were able to go to a church service for this community, and saw so many people. It was basically, it was like a funeral. I mean, I don't know how to say any other way. However, you could feel the resilience of the community, and the way that community has responded has been really inspiring for so many, because they sort of moved in lockstep. They moved from this location to another nearby-ish location where they could kind of all go together to school and rebuild a community around the school. That's been really inspiring, like seeing people band together and make these. It's just so much logistical overload, and so many decisions that you have to make or not make. You can't make because you don't have full information. So that's been interesting. But I will say that the priest said the most amazing thing. He said, I don't know about you guys, but this has been an out-of-body experience. I just feel like I'm out of body. I'm hovering over this rubble, and I'm hovering over all these things. And he kept saying, what is going on here? What is going on? And then he felt like he understood from Jesus, basically. He's like, I am what's going on. We are what's going on. And we have to, the church is not a building. And we, the church, we, the people, have to band together and, decide what we're going to do. What I love about what he said is, he's not saying we have to go right now with hammers and, bulldozers and materials and rebuild this community right now. He's saying we have to decide what we want to do as a community. And anyway, there's a miracle story where like the captain called him while he was trying to work on this homily and said, Father, I found something in the rubble. I'm not sure if you want it, let me know. And it was this box, that the only thing that kind of stayed intact. And he said, do you know this box? And he described this box. And he said, the priest said, yes, I do know this box. It's the tabernacle. And so the tabernacle with the Eucharist inside survived. And it was at the mass. It was at the mass that was held by this other church in Santa Monica. So anyway, so the church was very encouraged, right? The church was encouraged. The people were encouraged. And that was probably the most inspiring thing I've heard the whole time. But anyway, your question, I don't even remember it now. I'm off on tangents. But if you want to bring me back,
it doesn't matter.
Bring me back. Bring me back to wherever I was supposed to be. Yeah.
As someone who has been on the East Coast, just watching this whole thing play out from afar, I have been just so shocked and inspired, hearing our other family friends who lost their home, hearing my brother and his family, just the instant reaction. It has just been so hopeful. Even from people who lost everything, and they're just saying, we have our lives, we have our loved ones. Today is a new day. And as I've been calling my brother, I've been begging him to leave Los Angeles, because even though his community is protected, I'm like, the air quality, like, get out, this is scary. And I prayed for him every single day, as I prayed every day, and I just saw this beautiful image of my brother just in the full armor of God, looking like a gladiator, just walking through the ashes. And just as you said, I feel like God is saying this is the time for the church, not the physical church, but the big C, capital church, just to rise up, to be the body of Christ, to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And I don't know, it's what's going to happen now. And we're praying for you, but it is, God has you there, and many other Christians, I truly believe, for such a time as this. So I just want to know, how can we be praying for you? And how can people like myself who are on the East Coast just seeing this, hearts breaking, how can we help right now?
Well, I mean, definitely prayer's amazing and effective. I would say that most people need stopgap housing. So even just to make decisions. So that would be really high on the list of needs, which is a very hard, complex thing to fix. Airbnb has all these offerings, but meaning like, whatever they're giving, money or something for getting an Airbnb, like some sort of refund situation. But there just aren't available Airbnbs where you need to be. Yeah. If a kid is in school, or if you're kind of this family limping along in these realities, I definitely, I mean, there are a lot of things. I think, practically speaking, I don't think anyone really needs clothes anymore, or the local restaurants are doing a great job with food. Clothing donations are amazing, and they are needed for like immediate, like kind of small batch situations. But when you're in like a nomadic lifestyle, you don't want to be carrying a lot of things, if that makes sense. And I think there's also a visceral reaction maybe against things, not that they're bad, but like, just like many people lost all the things, you know what I mean? And that you can't really replace years of that, and you just want to kind of travel light. So I think the traveling light, I will say the community, like I went out to lunch yesterday just to distract myself, and I met all of these people milling about, displaced permanently or displaced temporarily. And everyone was chatting, and everyone had a smile on their face. Everyone was like, look at the community coming together and talking, and, free coffee or whatever it is. Like the small things are going a long way. I mean, I started a book drive and like book donations and things like this to hand out at hotels or locally. And my kids and I are thinking of maybe we do like a scavenger hunt with some of the books and write nice messages in them. And I mean, people are just sort of looking for community connection, stopgap housing, it's sort of everyone's trying to make a lot of decisions. So I think literature is a nice distraction where we can read and find beauty and take a second away from it. It's good too. So.
Amen. Well, we're going to continue praying for you. Just thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing your heart. It's just, as one of your close friends, it's just so crazy to me to even be having this conversation with you.
Surreal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're praying and just believing that, God is going to continue to put you in the right place at the right time. And I'm just praying you have holy confidence as your beloved city moves forward in just different conversations. So thank you for your time today.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to lift you up in our prayers.
Thank you. Bless you.